Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Ryan. It is nice to meet you if I haven't already met you. Today is bringing us here for a triple feature here at Triple Feature Creature, TCF. We're going to go with The Namesake, and I've got some fantastic films that I cannot wait to talk about. These are all first watches for me. Spoiler, one of my soon-to-be or now is all-time favorite movie, or one of them, because they fluctuate. I mean, you know, what's favorite today is not going to be what's favorite tomorrow, but it's going to be on that list from now on. Today, though, we do have our special guest. We are joined by R2-D2. This is that nice Target exclusive one. He's very wobbly. He's very wobbly. I'm not a big fan of the bobble-headed ones, but they're fine. They're definitely not my favorite. I've kind of had to move things around that way we can always have a special guest. So he is going to sit right there. I mean, he's straight enough. He'll sit there. Eventually, he'll stop bobbling, and then we can kind of get on with this. All right. So the very first film that we're going into today, guys, this is the one that I'm telling you, every now and then you run into those movies where you're just kind of thinking, where has this movie been all of my life? You know, it's everything that you like in a film, and it's all wrapped up into one, and so much things in this movie that you didn't know that you needed, and you didn't know that you needed this movie. And this is that one for me. Guys, we are talking about, what year is this? Oh, help me out. Oh, this is embarrassing. All right, I had to cheat. 1986. Guys, this is Dead End Drive-In. This is the Arrow video release. Before we go into a little bit about this film and why it is so absolutely fantastic, just kind of look at this. This is going to be what I'm imagining to be the original theatrical artwork, or at least one of them. All these Arrow releases are coming with reversible artwork. It's newly commissioned reversible artwork. However, though, I will usually always flip them to the original theatrical poster, since they do maintain those. So that's sort of what we're looking at like I said, what I'm imagining to be the original theatrical poster. A lot of the ones that I see is more of a close-up face of one of the side characters. But what you're looking at, though, let's see. Usually always the artwork is, another reason is because the commissioned artwork is always on the disc itself. So usually, okay, let's take that out a little bit there. Very nice, very cool artwork. But I mean, oh, you can't really beat that. That's just too cool. All right, so this is 1986, directed by Brian Trenchard Smith, a man who I was not well versed in his films prior to this. I know the man from Hong Kong, but I'm really not familiar with the majority of his work. Especially there's one, BMX Bandits, there's Stunt Rock, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I really kind of want to get into. So this was really, especially going into that sort of like Australian exploitation, the Ozploitation that he is so known for. This was really the landmark for me that's really wanting me to just kind of dive into this Brian Trenchard Smith rabbit hole. This is an absolutely amazing movie. The basic plot that we're going into is that we're in a near dystopian future, where the economy has completely collapsed, resources are scarce, and jobs are basically non-existent for the younger generation. So left completely to their own devices, the younger generation has pretty much sort of run amok in the city. I mean, there are different gangs and everything like that. So you have things such as like the car boys, because even cars are a necessary commodity, to where they are basically always scrapped by the car boys. A lot of times, because there is a scene when they're trying to, when a tow truck is trying to basically to get a job and to haul it away, and they got to go quick because the car boys will strip it. So it sort of gives you this sort of picture, and we have our main character Jimmy, who goes by Krabs, and he's a very fit fellow, very optimistic, very hopeful person, and he takes his girlfriend Carmen to go see a flick at the drive-in. However, the drive-in has a really interesting price point where you have the regular adult and then you have the unemployed price, which is substantially lower. So, borrowing his brother's fancy car, he thinks that they're going to maybe, I don't know, like pull a fast one, but I mean, he doesn't think that anybody's really going to check, so he claims 2 unemployed. We're talking, I mean, probably like $5, $6 cheaper. But there's a reason behind that, because the drive-ins are not just a drive-in, they are actually a concentration camp in the strict sense. I mean, this is not a work camp, this is not a death camp, it is a concentration camp where essentially society has found a place to sequester the younger generation that they do not want to look at, the generation that they have failed. They don't want them out and about because, well, they don't want to, in a way, look at the product of their own creation. And then so they basically keep them there at the drive-in. They're unable to leave, and they are fueling them with new wave music, junk food, drugs, typical consumerist 80s cliches of like everything you think of the 80s, like kind of like that, the sort of stuff that spawned the vaporwave music movement. And that's everything that they're giving them in here. And then obviously, Jimmy, being this sort of hopeful individual, he is not one to just kind of sit and become placated by everything that they're offering here. He wants a way out. I cannot speak more highly about this movie. This is an absolutely fantastic film. Just like everything with Arrow releases, the movie itself, the restoration work looks absolutely gorgeous. The film already has an amazing look to it as well, a very notable look to it. All of the, especially the afternoon scenes are like in this day glow orange. It's a very stylistic film. But on here, so it's a brand new 2K restoration from the original film materials. There is a commentary with Trenchard Smith. There is his classic television documentary called The Stuntmen, or The Stuntmen, which is all about Grant Page, who did stunt work on Trenchard Smith's The Man from Hong Kong and did stunt work for Mad Max. I've also got on here a Trenchard Smith's 1978 public information film, like a POS about, it's a hospital. I think this was a hospital public information film that's done in the Ozploitation fashion, and then some behind the scenes galleries, theatrical trailer, that sort of thing. So besides the overall stylistic look of the film, the overall plot of the film, the best thing about this, the soundtrack. The soundtrack is absolutely amazing. It is pure post-punk, new wave goodness with a lot of bands that I have never ever heard about before, and artists that I've never heard of before, especially Australian artists, and I can't find a copy of this soundtrack anywhere. I can't, it's not on streaming platforms. I'm gonna have to try to track one down so that I can have a copy, because I need this music. I need to be able to listen to this music on a daily basis. It is absolutely fantastic. One of the things that really interests me about Dead End Drive-In and why I enjoyed it so much is because it has a lot of parallels to one of my personal favorite movies, The Stuff, Larry Cohen's The Stuff. Because this is a very stylistic film, a very clear genre film, or really kind of cross genre in a lot of ways from what I'm understanding of Trenchard Smith's work to be. But it's that social commentary. That's why I enjoy The Stuff so much. This is a very strong social commentary that in a lot of ways is not very different from, okay, not exactly what we're experiencing today, but overall what we are experiencing pre everything going on right now. With unemployment rates and the future generation, or the younger generation, really feeling like they have been dealt a bad hand. And in this particular case, it's exactly what's happened, and the commentary of sequestering them away and hiding them away to where they don't have to look at them anymore because, you know, no matter how many ways you slice it, and you know, without splitting hairs, everything that is happening on the streets is a product of the previous generations and what they have done. So this being the answer to that, it's a very, very strong social commentary. I know originally this was based on a short story. The author, his name escapes me right now. Trenchard Smith had not read it prior to jumping onto this film. I mean, he sort of, I think he came in, he hung out for a week, revised kind of like the best parts of the screenplay and kind of upped to the social commentary, which I think is an amazing thing. I'm not going to give away anything, obviously spoiler territory wise, but the finale of the film was actually the most expensive stunt in Australian film history to date, and did set a world record. So fantastic things, guys. I cannot say enough good things about Dead End Drive-In. Please check it out in any sort of format, any way that you possibly can. The Arrow release, of course, looks absolutely stunning, but this is one of my all-time favorite movies now. I can't believe that I've gone this long without seeing something so good, so good. All right, and the next film, kind of speaking of cross-genre, the next film that we have in today's triple feature comes from Mill Creek. This is part of their retro VHS slip line. I do plan on doing more categorized triple features, like horror triple features, or sort of company specific, distribution company specific triple features, especially because when we have these, when these sales are going on, and we have these hauls and we make these haul videos, we're gonna watch what we bought. So, you know, having a more categorized approach to these triple features is a great way to kind of get through the catalog, because what's the point of buying them if we're not gonna jabber on about them? So this comes from the Mill Creek Retro VHS line, and this is Silent Rage with Chuck Norris. Again, we'll get into the cross-genre thing in the world, but for once, let's just kind of look at this cover. Let's look at this cover. There's not much difference with the but this it's more of just like a sort of a bigger picture, but you don't have that great incoming high kick from Chuck Norris on there. Has one of the greatest taglines in all of history. From anything that I have ever seen, is it science? Yeah, science created him. Now Chuck Norris must destroy him. I mean, we're way past the heyday of Chuck Norris jokes, but with that previous knowledge of all those fantastic Chuck Norris jokes in mind, it makes the tagline even better. So this is a bizarre film. This is a really, really strange film, especially with Chuck Norris in mind. Chuck Norris plays Dan Stevens, the sheriff of his local county. And in the beginning of the film, it's very much, every time that we're seeing Chuck Norris, it really sort of almost seems like a buddy cop sort of movie in a way, because he has this sort of lovable oaf rookie deputy of Charlie, who he's fine. He's the lovable oaf. I mean, you know, he's funny, he's goofy, and it sort of seems like that kind of buddy cop that or like, you know, he's not, I wouldn't say Chuck Norris is hardened, but the veteran and the rookie. And obviously lots of comedic elements in there. But what's going on the other side of the film is that we have a highly mentally unstable individual who has committed, who has killed two people in the very, very beginning of the film. And that's kind of what brings Chuck Norris into play. Once the police are called, the individual is gunned down, and he is sent to the hospital, where the doctors have also been sort of working on this type of experimental medicine. It's a cure-all almost, that sort of heightens or hyper heightens cell growth and regeneration, and has basically the capacity of turning somebody into a Superman, healing all wounds, curing diseases. I mean, it's this big cure-all. And the man, John Kirby, I believe was his name on there. It doesn't say. I'm pretty sure it's John, but I know it's Kirby. So we'll just say Kirby, not to be confused with Pink Kirby. So Kirby is going to die. He is going to die. So they take that opportunity to try it out. I mean, obviously not everybody is 100% on board with the idea, but it ends up happening because it's one of those, what do they have to lose? It is a perfect type of guinea pig. And lo and behold, the medicine is a success. However, we now have a highly, highly mentally unstable individual who is not only unstable, but he is now unstoppable. So watching these two, basically two completely different films over time, over the course of an hour and 41 minutes, slowly start to merge into one is absolutely fantastic. It is so, so fun to watch. This is not quite a slasher. He is very Michael Myers-esque, but it is not a slasher by any means. It's more of a thriller, if anything. But it's a lot of things. But the ultimate, I mean, we're definitely looking at more of a thriller, especially since the character of Kirby is the main antagonist, and there are some very, very brutal, gripping scenes in this film. Some really brutal deaths, not over the top, but just very, very brutal, very gritty. So this, in having Chuck Norris actually in this film is what really puts it out of left field for me, which is why I wanted to check it out so much. It's not surprising that Chuck Norris never made another movie quite like this, or never starred in another movie quite like this, and I don't think this is one that he ultimately really enjoys talking about, but I think it's absolutely fantastic. Like I was saying, where it's not a slasher, it's really more of a Frankenstein story. It really is a Frankenstein story with somebody else stopping the monster, as opposed to the doctor, the creator, trying to stop his own creation. But it's definitely, I mean, not Frankenstein exactly, but you can definitely see the parallel. So this is really Chuck Norris versus Frankenstein in a lot of ways. But man, it's absolutely fantastic. There is a terrible, the worst thing about this movie, it's just funny thinking about it. There is a small spoiler, just be aware, there is a really very cringe-inducing Chuck Norris romantic montage. I mean, Chuck Norris is looking as dastardly and as handsome as ever. I mean, on here, because this is pre-Walker. He is just looking like, just looking like a beefcake. He's looking great, but oh man, it's so bad. But but we're just gonna fly past that. We're not gonna talk about that in a little while. Funny enough, though, I did read that Chuck Norris, there was so much backlash from fans about his love scene that he vowed to never make a love scene again. And is that true? Did that hold true? Because I mean, I don't know all of Chuck Norris's work, and I've never seen every single episode of Walker, but maybe that is true. But guys, this is an absolutely fantastic film. This is one of those things where we thank Mill Creek so much for giving us this film and bringing it back, pulling it out from obscurity and bringing it to the masses, because it really is such an enjoyable film. The way that these different genres are able to meet in the middle and create this this sort of horror-esque thriller is fantastic. Unfortunately, it was they were hoping to have sequels in mind, but unfortunately, we never did get any, which is a shame, because I would have liked to have seen a little bit more action out of this, to where Kirby could have possibly become a Michael Myers type of enemy. But alas, it just was not in the cards. But absolutely fantastic film. My biggest gripe with watching this film is that, and it's hard to really say if it's a true criticism, because I mean, this was 1982. So because of this, you know, you're definitely well versed in a lot more movies than me watching this for the first time in 2020. So I have a lot of things to compare it to. So it's hard really to tell if maybe I'm looking at this through a bad lens of time, or if it truly is a critique. But there's a lot of times where building tension is being mistaken for moving slowly. So not to say that the film overall is moving slowly, because it really isn't. It's moving at a fine pace, but there are these scenes that are supposed to build up a lot of tension and a lot of anxiety. But they end up kind of doing the opposite, because it seems to me that they're sort of mistaking, creating that tension with, no backtrack, no music, and I want you to walk through every single room, every single hallway, very, very slowly, make them all freak out. It has the opposite effect. But again, 1982, so it's hard to tell if I'm properly giving that a true critique. But you can still find this usually around like $8, because all these Mill Creek releases are super, super affordable. The slips are great. I think there's only one that I have, one of these retro VHS lines that I have that did not come with the slip. I think it's Last Action Hero. Not a huge deal. I mean, I'm not a big slip person. Like, I don't have to have the right slip, but when you've got, that's the one thing that it does sort of bother me, but that's only when you have, because these are just great, great, great sleeves. But again, this is another one I would highly recommend to check out. Actually, all of these on here, there's not a bad film in today's triple feature. We have a good triple feature heading out. So that is Silent Rage. All right, guys, and the last film that we have in today's triple feature brings us now into full horror, psychological territory, bit of slasher, bit of full slasher. Another from the Mill Creek Retro VHS slip line, and that is Happy Birthday to Me. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the main reason that I had chosen this one, obviously the price points are very good for a blind buy, but just look at that cover. That cover looks so weird. It looks so bizarre. Obviously, by looking at this cover and the tagline, which actually was a bit of a criticism when the film came out from different distribution companies, because they were sort of advertising this as being a much different film than it actually is, and that still holds true. We're very thankful to Mill Creek for sort of preserving all of this, but it still does hold true. You're getting a very different film from what you're looking at right here, because when you're looking at this, at this shot, and 6 of the most bizarre murders you'll ever see. You're definitely anticipating this very over-the-top sort of cheeseball slasher. And that's really not what you're getting at all. What you're getting is actually a very, yes, there is very much those slasher moments, but you're actually getting a very, well, not very, but a pretty smart psychological horror film. This is 1980, and in here we have Virginia, what was her last name? Wainwright, played by Melissa Sue Anderson, who returns to her hometown and school of Crawford Academy, a preparatory school, following an accident that took the life of her mother. And she is part of the top 10. It's a popular clique. And one by one, members of the top 10 show up missing. Obviously, we get to see that they are not missing, but something starts picking them off one by one. And obviously, it takes a long time to even discuss her birthday coming up. But yes, her birthday is in fact coming up, her 18th birthday. And one of the other taglines that they had as well was, I think it was, how would you feel being at your birthday party and being the only one alive, sort of thing. So they were really marketing a movie that was very different from what we're actually getting. And I'm definitely sure that some of these prompts and taglines were retracted for good reason, I suppose. But this is actually a very, very good movie. I really highly enjoyed this movie, because what I really do highly enjoy is the way that it approaches mental illness and trauma. There are not 6 of the most bizarre murders. There are two that are pretty out there, maybe. There's a couple of brutal ones. There's a lot of great, the practical effects are fantastic. They're very good. Obviously the shish kebab is the one that is featured on there, and that's one of the more bizarre ones. But again, this is one of those looking at through different timelines. Is it completely bizarro? No, it's not. But this is definitely, we do have those slasher elements, especially as members of the top 10 start getting picked off one by one. But this is definitely more of a psychological film because it goes a lot into Virginia's trauma and Virginia's struggles trying to cope with the accident. Where this film begins and where this film ends are very two different things, entirely. But they do a good job of connecting and bridging us to that, even when we are not completely aware that that's exactly what they're doing. This film was directed by J. Lee Thompson, who did, I believe, the last two, the fourth and fifth Planet of the Apes films in the original. He did Charles Bronson's 10 to Midnight, and he directed Chuck Norris, and I believe Delta Force 2. I believe it was the second one. This has the psychiatrist, and this is Glenn Ford, who plays Dr. Faraday, who was not happy to be involved in a slasher, and from what I've read, that he was a nightmare to work with. But he delivers a fantastic performance because he has a very strong line between helping a patient cope and making them face their own traumas and their own crises. So like I said before, I mean, what we're getting it's kind of a little bit like Silent Rage. We're getting a couple of different types of films put into one, but the bridge is constructed very, very well. It's a very fun movie. It is a smart movie. It is enjoyable, especially if you enjoy slashers and you enjoy a little bit of psychological horror. You're gonna have a really, really good time with this. Columbia was the production company with this. They had picked this up because Paramount. Somebody please tell me if I'm wrong, but it was Paramount that had picked up the rights for Friday the 13th, and I think they were trying to capitalize on the next Friday the 13th. But obviously, this is not that kind of movie at all. So that's probably why some of the advertisement is the way it is. But overall, it's a great film. The slips are just like you'd expected, right over there with that spine. And the poster art over here, I really, really like this one. This is actually this is a lot closer to me to capturing the feel of the film because it seems more sinister. It seems darker versus just more of like, cheeseball slash. I really, really do enjoy this cover. But again, that is Happy Birthday to Me. It's just like Silent Rage, you can still pick it up for a great price. So guys, that is everything that I've got for you today. I really hope that you enjoyed sitting down and going through this triple feature with me. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button for more additional content. There's content just as this. There are haul videos. If you didn't like this kind of video, there are other videos, and maybe we'll have videos in the future that are like this, but maybe about films that you would rather see. But I'm telling you, these over here, you're really gonna want to see these films, and hopefully I've kind of inspired you to check them out a little bit. So again, thank you so much for watching this video. In the description box down below, in the description box down below, you'll find links to my social media and contact. Until next time, guys, thank you so very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.